All right, hello everyone. I'm Bra Mithra. We are going for part 2. This is our spoiler discussion where we're free to talk about whatever we want. There's another video that was a spoiler discussion of the grand overview for Gambler's Chest. We tried to keep it as spoiler free as possible, but we did discuss all kinds of things. So the main overviews will be there. But we're just going to pick it right off where that video left off, where we were talking about Ark Survivors being a replacement going forward as the new standard for how to play Kingdom Death. So once again, I'm joined by Tennis Dude. Hello, Tennis.
Yo.
And joined by Deno. Hello, Deno.
Hello, champions.
So this is the $1 million question.
Myself.
This is the one where everybody, this is the hot topic of everything. Are Ark Survivors going to be the standard going forward? And I know Tennis said yes in the end of the spoiler. I was mixed on it. Actually, I think Tennis was the only one who said 100%. But we can now talk about it however we want, anything we want. But let's just finish up that thought. Basically, they're too powerful. I almost felt unthreatened by almost everything, and the only reasons why I'm dying, pretty much, is not anything to do with the survivors being killed. Pretty much, I'm just dying because my scout died because I rolled a 1. I rolled Harvester, someone had an instrument. I got killed by scout discoveries. I've died because settlement events killed people. I've only died because I've rolled 1s, basically. Or something is completely nerfed me. I got a Harvester once, and then 2 of my people became pacifists in Lantern Year 2 because of Harvester, and both those people happened to have my weapons, so I just died. Like, I'm getting killed to Doomed. Or no, the Croc instant killing me because I rolled bad. But other than that, I never feel threatened. The only thing killing me is rolling 1s. That's how I feel about Ark Survivors.
They're definitely significantly more powerful than basic survivors, and that's partly because of the customizability. You know, you get to pick and choose. Yeah. There's moments in a campaign where you're like, "Cool, I'm going to buy the whole knowledge deck. I'm just going to take whatever I want."
Yeah.
And there's an interesting
You get 1 or 2 of those. It's fun.
Yeah, where you'll buy a knowledge and you'll be like, "Sweet, I'll pay 1 knowledge to pull that back out of the deck and buy that one again." So you can literally do whatever you want. And that level of customizability, in addition to Homicidalism's Dark Impulse 3, you know, there's a few little things like that just feel like your power level is over 9,000.
Yeah. I don't find the increased power level to matter that much to me. Because for so much of the campaign, you are choosing what quarries you fight. You can self-modulate a lot of that difficulty by just hunting higher level things earlier. And it's not perfect. You know, there are times where you aren't able to kind of self-modulate to that level of difficulty. But I've also found that by the time you get to that point, you're in more later game Kingdom Death, which I've always thought is a little kind of silly or whatever.
Yeah.
And also with Ark Survivors have a lot of fun of there's so many different crazy things you can do. There is just a joy in just seeing, oh, hey, I'm going to do this crazy thing now or that crazy thing.
It feels like the most incredible thing to just be able to pick and choose, you know, what's and you then get to look at all these gear options and then combining that with, oh, maybe I can do this. And, you know, that's part of the cognitive load is trying to keep track of all of those things, because every year you get a new ability and then you're like, well, I can do this now. And all of a sudden that changes up all 4 of your survivors again. And It's amazing. It's incredible. And it's very fun. But at this point in time, I don't know that the late game has enough challenge outside of level 3 King, Godhand. You know, I played the level 3 Lion God.
I don't think late game Kingdom Death ever did have that level of challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Godhand without he knows, like that was a challenge. I still won, and I still won comfortably, but it felt like I would potentially struggle
Yes.
if one or two things went against me, like an early trap draw or etc. So
yeah, I do actually really like that, because there is actually a late game challenge now worthy of like some like pretty obscene survivor builds, which is when you fight the God Hand. If the God Hand knows you're a settlement of Ark survivors, it arrives to the showdown very angry. And the fight is considerably harder. Because if the God Hand does not know, you get basically a free turn to wail on it, where you don't even draw hit locations. So you're able to just smoke it. So, yeah.
The late game Kingdom Death is definitely either you're winning or you're losing. Like you've got enough stuff, you've got Acanthus Doctors and Rolling Armor and all these things that have always just been crazy. But King gear to me is even more obscene.
Yes.
Okay, I have the dissenting opinion, but you guys say the status quo opinion, and then I will interject.
I think the guitar is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. That being able to knock a monster down mid-activation, we always had that ability with the pulse lantern, but that had a detriment of -1 accuracy. But you could load up 3, 4, even 5 survivors with that, and the monster gets no turn for the first 5 turns.
Yep.
That's it. That's dumb. That's stupid.
Yeah, stacking a lot of the knockdown, if you can get those, is a bit egregious. I'm in a few minds about King Gear because it is in a lot of ways very homogenizing.
We'll get to King Gear, but to wrap up Ark Survivors being the standard, right? I'm of the opinion that Ark Survivors make the game so easy. And I find it. I'm baffled by the duality of it. Because back in the, back before pre-Gambit Chess, let's talk 3 years ago. Kingdom Death had like people would be like, oh, they increased the organ. It now costs 2 organs because Grease was so good for 1 evasion, and Luck Charm didn't even get nerfed. And then now all of a sudden, it's just, you can just have all your survivors with 10, like, stats are just meaningless. It's just the duality, the wildness of why are we nerfing Vespertine Bow to 1 strength, and then Ark Survivors come out, and you can just have hundreds of strength.
I find them paradoxically easier, but also more engaging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that statement. They are far more engaging and far more interesting to try and get to that point. But as Bra said, there's you don't want to have to self-regulate in a game.
I really agree with that.
I do not find that fun.
It's a bad feeling when I never want to feel like I have to pull my punches against the game.
Exactly. I want to play the hardest. And so the first campaign, I was like, I'm just going to do Dark Impulse. I got it. I'm like, sweet. I've got fucking 4 survivors that are strength 15 and evasion 10. Fun.
Yeah.
The next campaign, I didn't do that. And, I could have, but I just felt like it would be more interesting to not do that and try different paths. But unfortunately, what I found was that different paths had similar end game results.
I agree.
Anyway.
I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's good that there are different ways to get to bonkers power levels. There's a lot of... So, like, you can have the fun in choosing the way you want to do it and then executing that. And there's multiple ways to do it.
I think
there's always been variability in Kingdom Death in terms of how your early game settlements, start to pan out. But I've found in my experience, as someone who comes from a very competitive wargaming background, that mitigating luck and decision making will always offset all of those things that come your way. There's maybe a few exceptions, murder and or plague. Early on, it's very hard to get away from those. But in my second campaign, I did draw plague in Lantern Year 2, and we got through it. So, but when you get to that later game, Kingdom Death has always been, well, if you got to this point, you've won. It's just get through the first 10 years with enough, and you'll get to the end. So this just makes it even more meaningless once you get past that first 10 years. And probably the what I overall feel about Gambler's Chest is it's been catered to players who are maybe struggling to get to that point. Players who have not had that level of success. And this just maybe gives them a tiny little boost. Things like Perfect Punt. Here you go, champion. This will help you in your next run through. Or,
there's certain things in the chest I'm just not going to engage with at all. And we'll get to those too. But here's quickly to piggyback on that. Do you feel that with the self-nerfing and all that stuff, right? You're self-making. Do you think that scouts balance Arc Survivors? That's the only thing that's holding me back. The only times I've died in Gambler's Chest is because my scout died and I lost all my gear. If I would have gotten my gear back, it wouldn't even be a speed bump because Arc Survivors are so powerful. Yeah. I think if I didn't use scouts, I would have beaten all these and I would have just crushed everything. The only thing that's slowing me down was the stupid scout dying, and I rolled a 1, and that feels so dumb. So but at the same time, I can understand it because, again, Dark Impulse exists. So it's just like it wouldn't have slowed me down.
Having an entire other survivor to level up a philosophy is it's a lot. It's like a massive bonus.
So early game, you get Grimjaw, you pick yourself up 3 resources, that turbocharges your gear progression. Mid game, you put him in a stone-faced cloak, he goes and hides, he gets his hunt XP, he gets his philosophy level ups, and there is 0 risk to you losing the fight. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah, I would really like there to be some more kind of options and things to do with the scout, because I feel like a lot of the existing scout gear is just a combination of both very basic and very strong. You give them the scout lantern, you use Grimjaw for a while to get some extra resources, and then after that you just kind of stick them in a cloak. And there isn't a huge amount of incentive to do other things with them.
That's it. That's the progression. You start off early. You get some things. Then you put Vermin Belly Boots in the cloak and you hide. Yeah. The Grimjaw becomes ineffective at the strength you're trying to hit, and so he just goes into safety mode. And I don't know. I was using Dreamism, and so I was having a Guardian reroll that I could just pop out, pop to safety whenever I'd use my Guardian rerolls.
Now that Dreamism's been mentioned. Look, okay.
Deno, what do you think?
Again, I think it ties into people are struggling to beat the game. Here is a little hint, a little help to make it so you can mitigate that.
Yeah, Dreamism is wild. I cannot wait for Dreamism to not be in my campaign.
I enjoyed the time I had it.
Mm-hmm.
And, but when it'll be good when it's not there. It is a little over-centralizing.
It was fun doing Lantern without Dreamism. I enjoyed it a lot.
I can't wait to do. Yeah, I think a lot of my things come from Dreamism. Every single knowledge you get from there is so overtuned and wild. Serial Code just lets you live. Dreamism just gives you multiple rerolls. Fingernail Door just gives you infinite luck.
Yeah,
but again. I think the mindset of Gambler's Chess was, let's give people who are struggling ways to win the game.
I'm actually agreeing with you, Deno. I think you're right. I think it is nicer, because the overall plot of Dreamkeepers is nicer. So I think you're right.
That ties into the story that the Gambler's trying to tell you. It's like, hey guys, it's just a game. You're playing a game.
I agree.
And you can beat the game. Here is how you do it. I'm going to show you.
Okay, speaking of the game, I need to interject my most unhinged KDM theory. I just realized. So one of the philosophies of death is deadism, right? And
We're going to talk about deadism.
I had some mixed feelings about deadism. What I did note about it, to me, it felt like the combo class, right? It seemed like a philosophy that is very contingent on realizing the different game pieces it gives you and combining them in ways to get a good result, because by themselves, like the individual knowledges or stuff are kind of meh, right? A little bit. Is that intentional? Because one of the realizations of deadism is the survivor thinks they are just in a game. So, of course, that philosophy is the gamey philosophy.
I don't think it's intentional. I think
it is my most unhinged KDM theory.
No, I mean, I think you're right. I think it could have been the intent to do that, but I don't think the power level of some of these knowledges and stuff, the combo, like, I don't know if the playtest team's picking up on some of these combos. For example, let's talk about deadism. Let's talk about dead again. I don't understand why that ability exists. I don't. I don't know what you're supposed to... I don't know what the intent of that ability is, and I don't know what you're supposed to do with it if you're not cheating or breaking the game.
Yeah. Turns out having a survivor that just turns into a new survivor when you kill it can do some silly things.
Yeah. Did you get deadism, Deno?
I drew it in my second campaign. I played it once. I like Dark Eye, but I don't. I found the no insanity to be so punishing that I was actively avoiding it, and actively avoiding leveling them up. So I don't think I got the best of it. I'd like to try it again because I think now that I understand the system more, and I would appreciate that as, you know, it's a good thing to be able to go out in a hunt without having all 4 survivors insane, isn't it, brah?
It is very good.
But what was your favorite tier 1 philosophy?
Oh, mine?
Everyone's. I love impermanism.
Permanism's great. I'm trying to think what they are. It's lanternism, deadism, impermeism, and faceism. Is that the 4?
Correct,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I just couldn't think what they are. I think, again, I don't know. Every single philosophy, I run into a wall where it just becomes, why is this in the game? And faceism has that same thing with the terrainomancy. It's just too much.
Physiognomy, yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say faceism because I really liked physiognomy. I liked adding more terrain. I felt like it added. Again, but it supercharges your campaign, right?
Yeah.
It's like, cool. I draw two dead monsters in a row. It's like, sweet. I win this fight. I don't even have to think about it anymore.
I mean, to be fair, the other tier 1 philosophies do as well. They almost every philosophy has some kind of big, super meaningful thing it can do. Deadism can give you dead again survivors.
I don't know why that
they
exists.
Just get reborn whenever they die. You can do crazy things with that.
Well, yeah. Okay, so specifically, Deno, what dead again does is when a survivor dies, you get +1 population, and then that survivor has the dead again ability, and that's all it does.
Never-ending survivors.
Yeah, it's infinite survivors. You just kill them at sacrifice, and then if you have cannibalism, you just get infinite basic resources and infinite endeavors.
Or if you have cannibalism and grave,
you
get
both.
I know. So
you can form a civilization of homicidalists ritualistically sacrificing the same survivor again and again.
Yeah, so it's just that's why I don't know if I'll be using philosophies forever again. There's just too many things where I need to say to myself, hey, I guess I can never use this, because if I do, the fact that I'm...
So let me provide you a slight challenge, bro, because I agree with you, but the fun part is trying to reach that point where you pull all the pieces together in the same way that my green armor run, I got to green armor. I was like, this is the best. And then I just ruffle stomped everyone because green armor is busted. And it's like, well, what was the fun bit? Actually getting green armor or trying to get to that point where I got it? You know?
I agree 100%.
It was
I
the
agree.
lead up. So, yeah. So there's cool combinations in all of those philosophies. Probably the egregious one, and the one that I think is too easy, is homicidalism. But all the other ones, there's bent things, but it's like trying to pull all those pieces together is the fun thing that you're doing in the campaign.
And there are like different ways to do it, which is the key part. Because if there's only one way to be broken, it sucks. Because you're constantly wrestling with, okay, I either do the one OP thing or I don't, and I feel stupid. But when there's a lot of different crazy things, you're like, oh boy, what thing in the candy store am I picking today?
I agree. This is actually why I think First Hero needs to come out as soon as possible. Because I don't know how much I enjoy the nebulous restarting, and then I don't like like for example, you can get homicidalism like year 5, and you can get Dark Impulse 3 like going year 6, and then it's just okay. Now I'm waiting for Godhand. I guess I'll just play the rest of the 27 years out.
You know, my kind of hot take there is I'm kind of mid on First Hero because I think early game Kingdom Death is the funnest.
See,
interesting.
I agree. I think when you're struggling is fun.
Yeah.
That's what I think is fun, and that's why I like early game Kingdom Death. What I don't like is getting Arc Survivors that peak Lantern Year 10 or whatever, and then it's just ride to Lantern Year 30.
That's fundamentally why I dislike Scouts, because they take away that really knife's edge experience that you're having. When you can draw 2 settlement events, I would be nervous every time I draw a settlement event, and then all of a sudden I get to draw 2 and pick one. It's ridiculous. Completely removes any concern I have. You have to draw murder and plague to be able to like have a bad one.
Yeah, I don't like the Scout Lantern. It makes me feel obligated to play with it, or I am intentionally making a bad decision.
Exactly.
I hate things like that.
Yeah.
See, I hate that too.
Which there actually isn't that much in Kingdom Death that makes me feel like that, because a lot of the times things are different enough that I can like, if I try, I can like delude myself into thinking like, oh no, there's some margins here to get.
Leather monster grease is the most egregious in that. I think. It's just like, well, that's the best. That's the best.
But like, there's like, no, the Scout Lantern is hugely impactful. Never don't have it. It's amazing.
Yep.
So and that's interesting because we've spoken a lot of, I guess, negative things about what we've found, and yet we all are overwhelmingly positive about the Gambler's Chest. It's just, I think we feel it's so close to just being overwhelmingly positive, but there's just this little thing where it's like, well, you have to self-regulate or otherwise the game's busted.
Yeah.
And I think all of us want to play hard and not have to worry about that because that's our mindset in the game. But for most groups that are probably more role-playing oriented or, story-oriented, I think they'll absolutely love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, that's exactly what I think it is. I think, and the reason why I'm still over, so even though I think most of my stuff, I mentioned in the spoiler-free, most of my thing comes from the intimacy. Oh my gosh, the intimacy arc is so overtuned. Oh my gosh, the fact that you can just, you can get I forget what it's called, fate, or it's not faces. One of the philosophies just makes it so you get an ability that just you had +1 to all your intimacy rolls, and then you just
that's on the Gamblers event at Lantern Year 5.
Yeah, he can give someone Founder's Eye.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's okay, and then you just get face painting. And it's just like, oh, well, I guess survival of the fittest is just the way to go now. Like that needed more help. But And then the intimacy, oh my gosh. The intimacy is so good because I think if People of the Lantern just had an intimacy table like the new one where you could pass fighting arts down on a 7 or an 8,
Yeah.
I think the intimacy table is what also powers the Arc Survivors, more so than even the forum. I found myself almost not even using the forum sometimes. Unless something was there that I wanted, I'd rather just pass them all down. It's just easier to pass it all down.
Yeah, it is interesting because for Arc Survivor Intimacy, when you roll higher on the table, if your settlement has had a grand feast, i.e. you've gotten 3 or more CC in 1 year, which notably this will happen when you kill a level 3 monster or any nemesis.
So pretty much every Lantern Year after Lantern Year 10, you have
Yeah.
a Grand Feast.
Certain high results will let you do things like pass down knowledges from the parents, or get twins who are able to randomly get some knowledges from the deck, or get prodigies, which have very powerful abilities, including being able to pick the result when you level up in a philosophy. Instead of having to roll, you get to pick.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I think the intimacy table adds so much power. I think that's where the power that fuels the Arc Survivors comes from. More so than the knowledges.
When you look at People of the Stars, it's a pretty insightful observation, Bra, because I think it's the same. Right, People of the Stars, your survivors feel so powerful, not because of any of their abilities specifically, but because you get to pass it down through generations. So, the intimacy table is great.
I do like how I feel like it has put the 2 birth principles, survival of the fittest and protect the young, in probably the best space they've been in.
Mm-hmm.
Because survival of the fittest is still really, really good because, hey, bunches of stats. Hey, rerolls. You love that. But the higher intimacy table results that protect the young get now pretty directly results in more power for your survivors. It's a different kind of power than rerolls and stats, but it's power.
Sure, but it's not necessary anymore because you get face painting and you get oracles.
Yeah.
It's just not. So it's just easier to do. It's like not even really a detriment at all now. Rolling low on that table, and the table you can only die on a 1 now.
All right, here's the hot take. Of this entire show.
Hell yeah.
Cannibalism versus Graves is now a legitimate conversation.
I don't agree with you.
I don't agree with that at all because you can get both.
Cannibalism is so bad.
So let's turn Lanternism off for a moment because getting both is obviously the preferred outcome, but I am probably skewed ever so slightly because I drew Skull Eater in Lantern Year 2.
Yes.
And I had Osteophages from Lantern Year 2, and I was like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. If you don't draw it until Lantern Year 15, or you don't draw it at all, it's a bad play.
You feel terrible.
But if you do draw it, it's a good play. And my question is that enough of an incentive to take it?
It's a very high rolly thing. Because the Marrowism philosophy is super cool, super powerful, and super fun. Like, it is all those things. I love it. It is my favorite. It is one of my favorite philosophies. It is locked unless you have Cannibalize, and you draw the Skull Eater settlement event. That's a very high rolly thing to decide. Because that means when you're taking Cannibalize, you're thinking like, okay, I am going to suffer and get very few returns on my investment unless I draw Skull Eater.
Yes.
It's a high roll strategy.
It's very high roll.
But if you do, you're having so much fun.
Yes.
Do a laps of the room, waving my shirt over my head. I was like, Lantern Year 2.
Yeah. I did do Cannibalize during my my second playthrough of Dreamkeepers. It did reaffirm my previous belief, which was like, wow, this feels a lot worse because I have like no endeavors, and I love endeavors.
Yep.
And like it bears highlighting if you don't have graves, you have so many fewer endeavors than normal.
Yeah.
Because your new survivors don't have +1 understanding, so you have fewer tinkers. So you're getting fewer tinkers, so you have fewer endeavors, so you have fewer population, so you have even fewer endeavors, because of course you have collective toil, because that is the best principle of that choice by a lot.
It's the only choice.
So it's this compounding effect.
We hinted to this. You go ahead and explain your Accept Darkness. I agree with Tennis completely about Torment and Accept Darkness.
So it's quite clear, right, that there's that collective toil is the preferable one, but I don't dislike Accept Darkness. I would say they're 60-40 collective toil. I would have said that it was 80-20 graves before Gambler's Chest, and I think it's now 60-40 graves. That's how much of a swing I think Marrowism is.
I would go like 70-30 because I'm uncharitable about that, but it is better. I would agree there.
And as much as I agree with you on endeavors, and particularly early game endeavors,
so good.
you know,
Give me more.
Early game resources is just as impactful. That can allow you to level up your gear quicker to reach a point where you can take on, you know, monsters with more certainty, which then creates, you know, but yeah, 60-40 is where I put it. I just like Accept Darkness because I like being able to remove one form of death from the table. It's like, cool, I will never die to brain trauma. That's it.
I agree.
Well, that's where the Torment thing comes in.
Torment makes Accept Darkness worse.
Yes.
Because you're 100% correct. The great part about Accept Darkness is when, okay, I don't need to think about brain trauma that much because I can't die from it. But Torment muddies that a bit because once you have Torment, you can die from it, even with Accept Darkness. Which I think does kind of hamper it a little bit. Especially because there are some knowledges that you probably want a lot that give you Torment.
The one that immediately jumped out to me is, okay, it's now just a ridiculous choice. Is Romanticism, Barbarianism, right? But
shambles.
It's a ridiculous. But I'm actually going to take Barbarianism next time because I want to keep my knowledge deck trim, and I just found it too hard to try and level up so many. Romanticism's clearly the better choice. It's fucking wild how good it is. But I think I want to take Barbaric because I'm going to have less knowledges in my deck. I'm going to be able to focus on leveling up those other knowledges and not have Romantics in there.
I can accept, because you need... Yeah, I can accept that reasoning, given that, it's not the good play.
There's so many things that I don't do, but you could just that I just know exist, right? So here's the thing that people have been saying when I mention this in Landers Reigns. They said this is a wild take and you have no idea what you're doing. But I've said the same exact thing you said. It's a deck building game. If you approach it from a deck building game, you want to have the same all your survivors. You want to keep making them pick the same philosophy. You want to keep trying to get them to level up exactly the same, or have two knowledges already and then never take any more knowledges. So you have your deck of things of just 10 cards, and then you want to put something crappy on Sculpture. So whenever twins are born, you're only drawing from 5 cards. So it's twins are born. Well, I'll take High Roller 2. I'll take Dark Impulse 3.
Romanticism does have multiple knowledges that are competing for the best knowledge.
Yeah, Romanticism Barbarian is completely broke. It's completely broke, and I don't even see any way of coming back because Romanticism is so good. It lets you get 5 knowledges.
They have to do a Barbaric.
But I don't even. But what does Barbaric even do? What does it look like to even compete with Romanticism?
I'm sure they could figure it out. Maybe. On the bright side, the actual effects of the principles, they're actually balanced now.
Yeah.
If you ignore the philosophy, the extra philosophy, -1 Lumi on adopting forum knowledges versus +1 strength, those are actually pretty balanced effects.
Yeah. let me ask you a question. This is one I was tossing up in my last campaign.
Mhm.
What is the best knowledge to sculpture, assuming you're looking
Potentia
for...
est.
Okay.
Yes.
What are you on, bruh?
Yes.
Assuming we're discounting Dark Impulse.
No, see,
I was
I would never do that because what I've been doing, I put what did I sculpture? I put Physiognomy too.
yeah.
Then everybody's born being a terrain mancer.
I was on Gastromancer. God,
Yeah.
it's good having a 10th gear grid for every model. It's so good.
But more knowledge.
Well, see, that's the other thing. You can draw into that with twins or pass it along. So I agree. I think sculpture is worse because you can pass. I think sculpture's, and I don't even know how to play sculpture. There's so many rules that I don't know how to even play correctly, and I don't even know what sculpture does.
The timing of the forum and the dealing of the cards, and when you get knowledges through pondering.
It gets fuzzy. I just I operate by vibes.
Yeah.
I also do appreciate that we all have like 3 very different answers for what the best sculpture thing is, and I feel like we all feel those are like the obvious correct one, and there's probably more like that people would argue for, which is a good thing.
Well, here's the thing with sculpture.
Osteophage in the first one, and that felt great too. So,
yeah,
I don't. But wouldn't you, the way I look at it is I want something to be free when I sculpture it, and I want it to be out of my deck for twins, and I want it to be out of my deck to be bought from the forum, because again, sculpture's so odd.
Potentia est is the only knowledge you want on literally everyone.
Yes. Yes, I know. And then romanticism. I don't know what barbaric's gonna look like.
knowledge is power. Very good tennis.
That's what Potentia est means.
Like the fact that we're just having a massive discussion about all of these things about Ark Survivor, they're just so fun.
Yeah,
like, they are so interesting,
wonderful,
and dynamic.
Optimism is great, and I love it.
Oh
yes,
but, verminism's incredible.
Yeah,
I love verminism too.
Oh, there's so many moments when you open up like the tier 3, level up, and you're like, hang on a second. All it wanted before was roll a d10, and now all of a sudden it's how many vermin resources do you have? It's like, I've never even thought about that before.
Yeah.
And now I'm like running around to get more vermins.
One thing I do want to say about philosophies is that I adore how almost like every philosophy has at least one big recontextualization moment, or like one big whoa moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't think we would be doing this, but we are, and it's great. Yeah. They almost always have a really cool surprise.
Yep, I agree. I think philosophies are so great. I think they're great. I think philosophies are just on now we're just circling back to things we already said like 10 minutes ago. They're on the cusp of being super great, and all it would take, and we already know it's coming. We're getting a legendary card pack too, and we already know that Dark Impulse 3 is getting looked at. And the other one that we already know because Taster confirmed it, was the other one that I don't understand why exists, and that's Shadow Caesar.
Yeah.
So again, the philosophies are on the cusp of being amazing because of the card pack that's coming out. That will just make it so I don't need to self-regulate myself, because I don't find that fun. I just don't find that fun. But I know. So we've talked a lot about philosophies.
Also, one last thing, because I want to know, what's everyone's favorite philosophy?
Favorite philosophy?
Favorite. That's a fun question.
It's probably verminism for me. I've really enjoyed
very
verminism.
Respectable answer.
But I interestingly, I haven't enjoyed the tier 3 ones.
They are very particular.
Ambitionism is my preference, but the tier 2s feels like where your real meat and bones.
Yeah, I like the
verminism. Yeah,
optimism. I think it's fun.
Optimism or impermanism.
Impermanism's wacky. Oh, what was the other thing? Let's talk quickly about bone eaters, right? I'm bone eaters and the bone decorations.
Right.
The gear that lets you protect frail and fragile stuff. What is that? I forget whatever gear that's called. That is such a good piece of gear. I love that. I love that gear.
I love the Bone Eater rewards. I think they are just the perfect mix of generally useful stuff, situationally useful stuff, and like build defining stuff.
Slap in the face to rebar, right?
Yeah. What I've really enjoyed most about Gambler's Chest, the thing I kept coming back to was it's made me rethink about so many core things that I thought were fundamental truths. Like frail is a bad keyword. Right? That is a fundamental truth that I had from the core game.
Yep.
And now I'm like, frail is a keyword that I want to try and incorporate and maybe can even utilize in an extremely effective way because of that piece of gear. Or partnership is a bad fucking innovation, except for now I've got optimists and what's that other one?
Yep. Partnership really got boosted by the chest.
Collectivism.
Yeah.
Collectivism and optimism. You're all of a sudden like, oh my god, if I have a partner of those two, I get huge benefit out of that. So it just changed so many little things in the game and maybe reevaluate their relative strengths, which I found amazing.
Yep. There's so much good stuff in Gambler's Chest. It's so good.
All right, quick fire. Smog Singer's just a shit fight. Like,
I was about to move to that because I know we got to move along on some of this stuff. Smog Singers. All right.
It's very variable.
I'm mixed on Smog Singers. I think
my first. Yeah, go ahead.
I think they're too heavily weighted in Gambler's Chest. Like too heavily weighted. So Smog Singers, good if you're using Atnas. Smog Singers are awesome. If you're fighting King, Smog Singers are great because of Hushed and stuff. Smog Singers are great in Gambler's Chest itself because of the monster mix. If you're not using Atnas and you're not using King, Smog Singers are utter shit. And I would never use them. That's how I
like the Smog Singer armor. Yeah. I like aspects of their gear, but it's such a bad fight.
No, my first level 3 Smog Singer fight.
Before we talk about Smog Singer armor,
was one of my favorites.
Real quick, we got to get this out of the way. We got to rip this Band-Aid off. Why in the hell is Cloth and Satiated locked to a CC reward? That is the best thing about Gambler's Chest, Cloth and Satiated. Oh my god, I love Cloth and Satiated. It makes mixed armor sets so good. It makes you think about maybe I don't need to complete a full set. Cloth and Satiated is so good, and I hate that it's locked to CC.
Yeah, just ignore that part.
Yeah, just say it's available from Lantern Year 2 onwards or 3 onwards in every campaign. I was late game. I was mixing matching sets just because I was like, I want to do this.
It's so good. It's so good.
For the first 20 years of my first campaign, I only used the Croc armor set as my full armor set. Everything else was mix and match, and it felt so good.
Yeah. So now let's reevaluate Smog Singers if you don't have mix sets or Arc Survivors.
They're fine.
The Smog hat's great.
The Smog hat, yeah.
Smog Singers are a bad idea executed very well.
Mm-hmm.
I think they would be a great encounter. I wish they would have stayed as an encounter. They're so thematic as an encounter. I think all that theme and all that stuff and all the alternate win and the going off with one when you get the plead to not kill it. I think all that stuff would have been so good as an encounter.
Yeah. They just fell flat for me. The more I played them, I forced myself to play them in Lantern. They felt okay, but I just never looked at any of their gear and was like, I want that. The only thing that I was excited about was Fluted Bone and picking up Song of the Brave and Saga early.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, that's all. That's it. That's the best thing about them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can feel that.
The hat is good. I like the ballads and stuff. I hate that interaction with Atnas. I know they were saying that's intended. I don't believe it.
Yeah, we also didn't talk about Atnas at all, but that's fine.
I don't. Okay, we can. Well, yeah, I know. I'm trying to.
We forgot about it.
No, we talked about it a little bit, but
very briefly.
I kind of want to push this along here because I know it's going long on time, and I know.
Yeah.
Let's quickly run through all the monsters now that we can talk about spoilering them. Godhand, super anime villain. It's such a trope. I'm not a huge fan of playing into tropes and that being your only gimmick is a trope from something else. the powering up and all that. It's literally, oh, I enjoy this if I watch anime. I don't know.
Unfortunately, he was exactly what I expected from Hand, but he's taking it serious. I kind of wanted to be surprised a little more. He's just kind of there.
I found the fight against him when he knew really fun. I was on the edge of my seat, but you can break him very easily with when he doesn't know. And
Yes.
Yeah, you can just delete him from existence. So fine.
He's not like a gambler.
Yeah, so let's talk about Gambler real quick. Gambler, the meta stuff. I hate it. But other than that,
Love it.
no, other than that, I find it great. So the only reason why I hate meta stuff is because it's like, okay, do I play by the rules because Gambler wants me to play by the rules, or should I not play by the rules and then try to have fun with this? But so, like, for
Gambler
example,
has marked up my dice, and I love it.
that I hate. But for example, there's crits that are like, oh, well, they're expecting me to roll on the board. Okay, so I want my survivors near dice so they can kick it underneath him so he'll be knocked down. So then what do I do? Do I just roll all my dice on top of all my mini? Because that's what it wants you to do, and that's just not. It's just dumb. Or the flipping of a token, and then you catch the token, and now this AI does nothing. It's just so.
Okay, no, that part is genius. That's the entire. That's it. That's Luck's entire revelation. That's his thing. He wants to. He's trying to catch the coin on its edge, not on a facing. That's great.
Yeah, I'm with Tennis here. I loved all that stuff. I've got 15 dice packs though of all different colours, so marking one dice doesn't have any impact to me at all. But I just use guitar specialization, mate, and cancelled that dice reaction anyway every time. So didn't bother me in the slightest. But,
well, here's the thing. The other thing with Gambler is I don't know if everybody's playing it correctly. Gambler, it's on your roll. A lot of people, when I saw them talking about Gambler, they're like, oh, he changes your result. I was like, no, you gotta read the card. It affects your roll. So you don't have the reflexes and stuff don't trigger. You can't high roller it because it affects the roll. So if you roll a 10 or a 1, the Gambler stuff procs before you can replace stuff with your high roller, because your high roller replaces a result, but Gambler affects your roll itself. So it triggers before all that stuff. And then same with the reactions, same with the coin flipping, same with the dice bag. All that stuff's the dice roll itself, not the result. So it's super annoying. So even when you have high roller, let's say you steal his Gambler dice, you still need to roll your dice, and if you roll a 10, then you don't have a dice to replace, and you can't use your high roller. Then his story event, you can't use high roller, you get punished for having high roller. A lot of his stuff was just so meta, but I get it.
I did like the high roller midi game, and like that being like, because okay, like I do have to admit, one of my favorite things in Dreamism was getting high roller way earlier in the campaign, and like, you love it. It's such a cool, fun thing, and then like you go into the showdown, and that realization of, oh, it says I steal a dice. Yep. I take his dice.
Yep, I do love it. It's just too much. The meta stuff, it's fine. It's just too much for me.
It's the Gambler. You had to expect it.
Sure. And then it's like I'm rolling on a green screen because I'm playing it live, so I have no chance of kicking dice because I'm not even rolling on the table. Then it's like if it doesn't hit the showdown board, or what is it? If the dice is rolled off the showdown board, it becomes an instant 1, and I'm like, but I'm rolling on a green screen. I'll just ignore this. So it just becomes like just a big old, I'll just ignore these rules. I'll play by some of the rules, but I'm not going to roll my dice on the table. I'm not going to roll my dice on the showdown board. I'm going to ignore these, but it's just so dumb.
I can understand that grading on people. Deno, are there any things you want to bring up or talk about before you have to go? Because I think this is getting to the end of your time.
It is, yeah. No, look, first of all, really enjoyed the conversation today, friends. So thank you. Look, it felt like a revitalization of the game.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I know the term Advanced King Death Monster got thrown around a lot. It feels exactly like that. I wouldn't recommend it to newer players. I wouldn't say, hey, go buy this as your first purchase. But I would recommend it for people who are as invested in the game as we are, who've played many campaigns, because it changes up so many core fundamental things we've taken for granted. I can see myself playing just with the Gambler's Chest, multiple campaigns over the next few years, just incorporating different things with the existing expansions. So the idea that we've got 15 more expansions to come, it gives me shivers down the back of my spine.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
So and if these new expansions match up to the quality of the programming of these monsters, the level of nuance and sophistication that it's shown, we're in for an amazing time. So it's a great thing. Well worth $400 in my opinion. And
I agree.
I'm excited.
I don't think also made the ending of the Gambler's Chest thematically feel so fitting.
It did.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so we talked Smog Singers, we talked Atnas. Oh yeah, we can talk Atnas real quick. Atnas I thought was fine. I think Atnas is interesting. You guys enjoy Atnas?
Yeah.
I know you enjoyed Slenderman, right? More.
I would replace Atnas. I would replace Kingston with Atnas every time if I had a choice, which I do. So I will.
Yeah. I think Atnas is fine. I think it's better than Kingsman.
He lacks interesting rewards.
Yes.
I disliked his unwanted gifts event more than anything else.
I do like the horror of his timeline events. Because what's the second one called? Is that
unwanted gifts? And then the other one's his.
Yeah, the one he can cause to you after his first one is like one of the only times Kingdom Death takes its horror seriously, and it's very effective.
I would happily play Atnas. I really dislike the mechanic with the Smog Singers and being able to neuter his entire thing. I just think don't play that ever. If you're ever interested in fighting Atnas at a little bit more of a power level, I think Taste put a variant in the Lanterns Range.
He did. I am going to be streaming that probably when I get to that Super Atnas.
That looked fun. Try that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know we talked about Luck a little bit, but Luck was really hard to not talk about without being spoilered. So now let's talk about Luck real quick too. So here's the reason why I felt it was like a beta thing, because Luck cannot die. So it's just like there's no punishment for even using him because he can't die and he's always going to advance all of his stuff. It's just like they just forcing the Wanderer story to happen because he can't die. It's just like, well, people won't engage with this if he can die, then no one will do the Wanderer. So let's just make it so the Wanderer just literally can't die, and then people might try it. Like, that's how I felt about it.
Just reinforces that mechanic of, we want you to win.
Yeah.
Here's a way to make it easier.
Yeah.
I don't even think Luck is as much of a positive. I think that's more of like a thematic thing.
I think the Wanderers will be better when they're earlier on.
Yeah. I agree.
I think that is... I don't think... Did anybody use Luck? Did anybody get to the end of a story?
I never once used it.
I did literally because I wanted to progress the story. But mechanically he was like, okay, Luck, go to the event in Kingdom Death that drains all of your strength because you have no strength anyway, and this is the best use for you.
Here's the other weird one. Did you even worry about his disposition? Doesn't even look like it affects any. It just looks like it's a meaningless thing.
If you get to the end of his philosophy.
Yeah. Does it matter at the end?
Relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, it has a big impact there because he can leave his stuff or give bonuses to a survivor when he leaves.
Oh, so it's all wrapped up in the end. All right.
I like Luck. He's a sad boy.
Yeah, his story and everything's great, which is why I wish it came in earlier.
Yeah.
I think we've talked now pretty much about everything. I mentioned again, I hate Pacifist. I think that's the worst disorder ever introduced.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
you just feel really bad because you had two guys with weapons droid in your harvester hunt. That was fun to watch. By the way,
that was also Lantern Year 2. So it's like I only had enough to get like 2 weapons, and it just so happened to go on the people with weapons, and I was like, well, I'm dead. It's just there's just nothing to describe. And then I played it all out too. I don't know. Things like, I think you notice things more when you actually play them out. And noticing that I'm just rolling dice and the croc couldn't kill me, and it took like 10 minutes of agony.
That's good times. Hey, on that note, I might drop off, friends. Really appreciate your time.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. Your insight was invaluable because of how much time you put into all this.
Appreciated both of you. Looking forward to chatting again soon.
Yes.
Yep, make good choices.
Make good choices, both of you. See ya.
All right, tennis. Let's talk about some of the stuff I know that you also question. Well, we talked about Shadow Caesar and Dead Again. I think we're both in agreement that we don't understand those abilities.
Yeah, Shadow Caesar, it lets you choose who departs all the time, always. Even if those survivors can't depart, you can choose to have them depart anyway. It's an interesting ability. It was kind of fun in my first run through when I was like, hey, let's do wild and crazy nonsense. Not entirely certain why it exists. It's kind of just leads to some degenerate gameplay that isn't super fun, but yeah, it's there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff again that you can just min-max, even if you're not. I hate saying min-max, right? Because my big issue, sometimes I type these things or I say them and people are like, oh, it's just because you're min-maxing. My issue more so with Dead Again and Shadow Caesar are because you don't have to min-max them. It's just what it tells you to do, and then you do that, and then it just starts breaking the game. Like, you don't even have to think about it.
I think the worst thing about Shadow Caesar is that I think it pushes you to play the game in a less interesting way.
Yes.
Because it's like, oh, hey, you can send your retired survivors out anyway, but I don't think that's fun. I think it's more fun when you have to contend with the fact that survivors have shelf lives. Yeah.
I think if he had to depart, the Shadow Caesar. I say he, could be a she too. I just said it because of the name Caesar. But if they had to depart, but because it's an ability, you don't even need to depart. They just always have it. You could just keep them in your settlement forever, just safe. It's odd. Let's see, what else? Anything else you want to mention that we didn't talk about?
I feel like we got to most of the big ticket items I want to talk about. It's a good game. There's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, there's even though we talked about some negative things, I think the variant in the back of the book, this is one thing I think I might do in the future. Have you thought about curating your philosophies? I think I might do that going forward, more so because then I can curate out deadism.
I can see sometimes doing it when I want to do specific things or engage with philosophies I haven't had a chance to much, or I would very much see myself being like, hey, let's roll the dice and see what's going on. I definitely could see myself doing both.
Yeah, I think Gambler's Chest put Kingdom Death in such a great place that you can literally tailor your game to an extent that you never had the power to do.
Yeah.
And that is so good, and that's so great. We didn't really talk about the murder. So there's a new murder event that fixes stuff. It gets, because I know a lot of people hated murder. Oh, the other thing. How do you feel about Smogs and not fixing Harvester? I kind of don't like that. I heard. I think Taste said that they mentioned it, that they're looking at it, right?
Yeah, I do dislike that for Smog singers. It's kind of, I just am resigned to, okay, ignore the fact that Harvester is a thing when I'm looking at this stuff.
Yeah.
It's whatever. It's like, yeah.
So Harvester still exists if anybody's out there worrying about Harvester. But other than that, Yeah, Gambler's Chest. Oh, such a bright future for Kingdom Death. So good. Barbarism cannot come fast enough.
Yeah, Barbarism will be a great day.
I think
As
Barbarism
will be
is the
COD
number
and
one
all
thing.
the things coming up.
Barbarism's got to come out. It's got to come out soon. Like,
And
it's
hey,
got to.
we're getting Black Knight next though.
I know Black Knight looks so good too. Everything looks so good. Just the fact that everything seems to be using Gambler's Chest going forward is such a good foundation.
Yep.
Such a good spot. And Black Knight has the CC stuff. For Black Knight cuisine. I couldn't tell if it was a cuisine or if it was just a knowledge because it was hard to read the card. But I think it was.
Yeah, we saw the card about a knowledge, which is also actually kind of interesting because their nemesis in the chest do not have knowledge cards.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny. But yeah, it's gonna be cool. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see the Percival's sad puppy.
Yes. Hopefully we'll get the answers for their questions answered for Black Friday.
Yeah, the 5-year campaign looks so much fun.
Yes. So Gambler's Chest, super win, huge win.
Yep.
I couldn't be more pleased with it. Maybe the balancing, but other than that, those are minor things that we can filter out. Minor things that can be fixed with curating your philosophies, which I think is what I'm going forward with. The fact that the systems work so well together, like they're so good independently. You can just put them back. You can choose how exactly you want to play. It's so reminiscent of those like early 90s, late 80s board games where everything was a system. Every expansion just added another book, and then you could just mod anything you want. True 80s, 90s board games. That's what it feels like.
Yep.
So good. A more recent version would be like Descent, where every expansion just is more and more and more, and it all puts in the same system. Yeah. So good. Game was just well worth it. Just a few hiccups, but I would say when you're making 1,000 cards and you're doing thousands of different things, and
they're almost all great.
Yeah, having 3 or 4 hiccups with some super questionable stuff. Again, I think with the card pack could fix everything, and I think Gambler's just might be near perfect, as we talked about in the spoiler-free review. It's so close to being near perfect.
Yep.
Tennis, anything else you want to add?
No, I think I've said most of my piece.
All right, thank you for joining me, Tennis.
All right, yeah. Thanks for having me. It was a fun time.
It's a fun time. All right. Hopefully this was helpful to everybody. Hopefully, if you needed some spoiler discussion on whether or not you want to pick up Gambler's Chest on Black Friday, hopefully this was helpful. Lots to talk about. Lots to stay on track when there's so many moving parts. We did our best.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Tennis.
Yep. Adios, everyone. Take care and make good choices.